All right, so this week is our third week of the risk pillar. And this week, I have decided that my two favorite ways of building projects are going to be how we tie this up. And they're going to sound boring, but they're actually a lot of fun. And that is the CP families and the AT families. So CP stand in NIST stands for contingency planning, and AT families are awareness and training. So for those of you who are running phishing uh, um, services, I mean, those are kind of fun. It's kind of fun to see how you can trick people into clicking on emails. And I know
I
with
know it's much more fun to talk about those that do in the meetings afterwards.
yeah,
Those are great because you have those meetings with your client, and it's actually hilarious. Oh wow, did Bob really click on that one again? So it's an easy one to have.
we made a fun little game out of security awareness and training in that we had a bunch of vinyl stickers printed up that if somebody left their computer unlocked and you happened to see it, you could slap one of these stickers on their screen. And the idea was that you didn't want to be hit with one of these stickers. And I wanted to be so that you put the sticker on, you took a selfie with it, and that person owed you like a soda or they owed you like something, and just make a game out of it. But awareness and training can be fun. Like, yeah, the policy part of it is a little boring. That is above. But the actual like security awareness and training, that can be really fun and very engaging with your clients. So you do a phishing email, and then you can say this many people got fooled. And then it's fun to like when somebody sends an apology email, go, "Oh my gosh, you totally got me! I can't believe it." And that walk of shame as I go to their desk, and or they come to my office and say, "I clicked it. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking like that." That's why we do it. So I know a lot of you charge for this as a service, or you include it in certain levels of engagement with your customers, and that's great. But one of the things that you can do with this is make it a little bit more intense. So as maybe somebody goes up in level at your organization, so maybe they're going from gold to platinum service with you. Well, in the platinum service, you can include things like we will actually walk your offices randomly once a month or a quarter. And anybody we find open, we're going to splat them with a sticker. And we will record that this person left their computer open while we walked through the office. That's kind of like a physical pen test. If you've never done a physical pen test, they're kind of fun. The goal is you walk up to a customer and you basically just ignore all protocols. You just
Yes.
walk in the office and see if you can't sit down and email from somebody's computer.
Yes.
And it's amazing how far you can get. And I've got some in a very highly secure industry. I had some insight and like some of the professional companies that would dress up like repair guys for the internet. Oh, I just need to get in and I need to do this. And how far could they get just talking their way through?
I learned that early in my early days. I did a lot of on-site support. That was kind of all we had back then. And I was consistently amazed at how easily I could walk in the door, smile, mention one person's name or one specific thing in their environment and get free reign of the entire business.
Yep.
So here's an interesting exercise to run through. And it actually works, something you can kind of scale up and do pretty regularly. Whenever you have a new technician, and it doesn't matter if this is a junior level or a senior level person, one of their onboarding activities is to pick a few clients, maybe probably pick them for them, and send that employee out there, all right, and start with the premise of, hey, I'm a new employee at XY wherever, and I'm supposed to be here to take a look at the router. And I mean, they may be wearing one of your company shirts. They may be wearing, or may know the names of the account manager or, the lead engineer on that project. But given that limited information, that shouldn't let them pass the front door. But how many cases does it? And then it becomes a great exercise because now this brand new employee is really connected, whether they make it past the front door or not. It's going to be a great exercise that they kind of bond with some of these clients. It creates a personal connection there, but at the same time, it does a very, very valid penetration test and allows you to come back to the client and go, hey, we had a new employee walk in the door. You guys have never seen this guy, never even heard of his name, and he made it all the way into your data center. That's a problem. And great conversations to have after that.
So, I mean, that's just your security awareness and just being aware of what the environment needs. Some places don't really care. Dog kennels, places like that don't really care too much about physical security other than making sure the pets are safe.
Some of those pets are pretty expensive. I mean,
be stolen. So the idea is that once you've gotten the awareness, once you figured out like from phishing, and once you have built up a repertoire with the company, like, hey, here's where your gaps are. Now let's do some training. And that training happens consistently. Now, when it comes to compliance, you're required to do security awareness training once a year. Usually we do that in October. And that is usually either a project, if it's not included in their package already, or if it is included, they get a standardized rollout of activities. So like you're going to do a lunch and learn, like somebody's going to come and talk at a company meeting, or you're just going to show up with donuts and you're going to talk through the current like issues that are facing the company. Like, hey, this last year we fished you once a month and we had about a 20% return. We'd like to get that down. So everybody needs to be aware. If you can get it down, then next year I will bring in extra donuts or, whatever. Or the CEO will wear a bunny suit for a day. Something, just make it fun. People tend to respond to positive or challenges more than they do negative. But
so you mentioned lunch and learn, Adam,
into your portfolios, but you can also charge more once you add these in, so that if you're going to do the physical pen test or you're going to do the on-site lunch and learn, make sure it's done at a level where it entices a customer to jump up. Like, oh, I love those. Like, well, those are only for our platinum customers.
There you go.
Oh, awesome. So by showing them that they're getting something extra, that doesn't cost you too much time, but just enough that that you have to charge more for it. Like you have to pay for an employee to go on site and give a lunch and learn. You have to pay.
Well, no, this is where this is the value part about lunch and learns. I think a lot of people overlook is that they see, we have that in the platform, lunch and learn is a client engagement play. And they're thinking, oh, what do I got to come up with? We got to create this content and this presentation. I flip that around and say, no, you don't have to be the expert in a lunch and learn. And there are many, many experts available to you within your vendors. Sometimes the vendors for your client, like their software vendor. And in a few cases, the experts are in your client's organization. And so there are ways that you can turn the lunch and learn around. And today's, world that we live in, lunch and learn is a little bit harder to do, but we can translate these into webinars pretty easily, and you become the facilitator. So you pick the topic, you organize someone to lead the lunch and learn. Again, pick from a wide array of experts that are actually available to you. All right. If you're partnered with a security firm doing a SIM or a SOC, I guarantee you they have someone on staff that can talk all day long about common security threats and, phishing and social engineering and all these things. And they're usually pretty good at it. I did one every year. We had a Cisco guy come out. He was phenomenal. It wasn't high end. He wasn't overly technical. He was very personal. He had an engaging story, and clients loved to listen to him, not us. They listen to the experts. And so lunch and learns or / today's, deal web and learns. Is that what the thing or something? I don't know. translate that, find an expert, and all you do is facilitate. I tell people back in the days when we did lunch and learns, your main job duties were make sure somebody delivers lunch, introduce them, and then sit in the back of the room and eat lunch while someone else does all the work.
Yeah.
Hey, how about the MB?
The goal is, yeah, you're engaging, you're bringing somebody in. You know, my thing is like, I don't like to do things for free. And so like this becomes a next level item for your clients. So you will facilitate one of these. Yes, maybe it's just you have an account manager who reaches out to Cisco or reaches out to Barracuda or whatever your favorite vendor is, says, hey, do you guys want to come on site and do a lunch and learn? We might be able to sell some extra Barracudas or something like that. And they're like, yeah, sure. And so you're facilitating that for your platinum customers or your gold customers. But knowing that that's an extra thing they get when they bump up a level is a very visible thing, especially for those compliance geared clients. They're going to be like, oh, so for only like $20 a PC more, I get this security awareness training every year, or only for X dollars more, I get this. Yes. Or, hey, you can add the package on for X dollars, like $2,000. We'll add a security package onto you, depending on how you guys bill your clients. And that's something, if you need to help figure out, you can reach out to me or Skip, and we can help you figure out how to bill for stuff like that, how to increase your rates. But increasing value also allows you to increase price. A lot of you increase value with these great ideas of things you should do for the customer, but you don't correspondingly increase price. With security training and with security issues, you can do that now because you're adding value. And with people who are PCI compliant, they have to have security awareness. So you taking that off somebody's plate, you're doing them a favor. Yes, they're going to pay more for that. The other side to this week is contingency planning. And this is one of my favorite ones because it's so overlooked. We like to play the what if game in IT, but the actual implementation of it with a business, it's hard to get them to buy in. So with a pandemic, we actually have a high amount of interest in contingency planning right now.
Mm-hmm.
How do we work outside of the office? What happens when bad things happen? And so with contingency planning, when you see that a client is scoring really low in risk and the like, hey, if a blizzard hits, here is the problem. You can't work from home because only 3 people can work from home because your pipeline is too small, or you have not enough laptops on your environment, or your laptops aren't managed, so they're not reliable, or you don't have a cloud presence. Whatever it is, your on-prem exchange won't work. Go down the list. You guys are engineers. You know the answers to these questions. So with contingency planning, what is the risk in your area, and what are you going to do about it? I'm going to take this to one more level here. This is one that in security, we find that most IT departments overlook, especially vendors overlook this. And I always had to challenge them with the question because an insurance company asked me the question. I'm like, holy crap, I never thought of that before. Mm-hmm. And the question is, do you have a priority list for customers when it comes to area disasters? And that always, like, some people, yes, here's how it works. And some people are like, what do you mean? So if a blizzard hits your area, this, as an MSP, you guys have a localized group of clients. And that means they're all being hit by the same blizzard at the same time. Who gets priority? Now, at a government level, that is extremely well defined. Now, in a private sector, now you have your pet customers that you love and you know because they're paying you a lot of money. And you have customers who are really high value because they're in a medical field, maybe. So who gets your attention first is often determined by an extra package, a priority package that gets put on. It's like, if a disaster occurs, you get priority request. I can only have 3. I've talked about this before. You know, figure out with your company, each of your engineers can have 1 priority, you know, and they're going to go and help that person. And so that is a intangible thing that you can actually charge for. So when I worked in government, we expected to be charged for the privilege of being first. Because if 3 electric utilities are down, who are you going to help first? The one that pays you the most. and we weren't the biggest electrical company. So we were searching around for companies that would serve us first. That's what we want as a priority. We know that there are a lot of clients out there and we want priority, and I'm willing to pay for that priority. It may never happen, but the security of knowing that I am your priority customer in the event of an area disaster, that is worth a lot to me, especially given who I was working for. You guys need to decide with yourselves, like if you guys had an area disaster, if you've never been through one of these before. And so if you've never been through one of these area disasters before, you don't know this, but if you have been through one, if you've been through the Eastern Seaboard blackout from, what was that, 2011? Or when was that? 2007? I don't live on the East Coast. Bob, when was the big blackout?
Yeah, they had one for a while there.
That woke us up. Like, who do you help first? Charge for that. Hey, we have a priority list. The person in the number one slot goes first. Now, if you have two people who want to go first, then you've got to solve that problem amongst your engineers. How are you going to balance that? But understand that it is a scarce resource. So in the security in 2003, Bob says, that was a big deal. And here's the thing is, having worked for an electrical utility, and Skip probably knows this as well, we are due for a solar event. We have not had one in about 80 years. The last time we had a major solar event, we were still relying on telegraphs. When the major solar event happens again, there's nothing we can do about it. All of your customers are going to have a blackout at the same time.
Yep.
It's helped. And so these are things you got to think about. They're going to happen, and a little bit of a scare tactic. We don't want to scare our customers, but people need to realize that things happen and multiple customers need help, and having that list ahead of you saying, here's how we're going to deal with this. And if a customer is not on that list on a high priority, then you say, here's your contingency plan. This is what we want you to do for the first 24 hours until we can get to you.
Yep.
And so they know they have a playbook. There's a person with a playbook in their hand saying, for the first 24 hours, our job is to, in case of Hurricane Sandy, as Bob was saying, grab as much computer devices as we can and put them in the back of our cars.
Yeah.
Yes, this is part of a business continuity plan. So Mike is saying this drives the business continuity plan. So the BCP is a much larger discussion. That's your calling trees. That's where is your accounting going. That is where your business function is going to reside during times of disaster. IT is a massive component to this, massive. And NIST covers a lot of this. If you do the in-depth NIST analysis, this is all the CP. And then I think it's also, there's another one, two of them that go together. Oh, PE. So those two kind of go together on this. And they're going to ask some in-depth questions to kind of guide you here. But you can charge extra for this stuff, for the privilege of knowing that somebody is a priority. That as soon as you see a hurricane coming, you're going to call him. Shane's gonna reach out and say, hey, I see you. I see that there's a hurricane about to hit us. I see that an earthquake just hit our area. I know that this is a blizzard. We have had 60 inches of snow in the past 5 weeks. What do you want to do? And so
move
ahead of these things, and people are good at that. The great thing is these only happen once every few years. So you're able to capitalize on it. It's kind of like your downtime for your engineers. You're paying for that like at 2.5 times W2. But Mike was asking, how do you charge for a service like this? And that all depends on your current pricing structure. So, with your existing clients, charging extra per device. So it scales well. So if you have a large customer who requires a lot of extra time, if it's like an extra $5 a device or extra $2 a device, then yay. But it has to be across the board because it's business by business. You can't say this device gets priority. Some people can do that. We've done that in corporate structures where we say this department gets priority, this department gets priority, and we go down the list. So our priority was to get the call centers up first.
Right? Yeah, I think you can price based on deliverables, and a lot of it's going to be a swag number. We're going to get there, but and by deliverables, I really fall down to bullet points. Okay. You guys know me and my issues with complete sentences, right? So bullet points seem to be the way to operate on this. And we need some way to generate those bullet points. The NIST assessment is really great at that. It's full of bullet points. So you go in and you target the areas that you want to focus on. You know, we're in this contingency planning, you know, prioritization. Those are just a few of the bullet points that begin populating out, and without taking this to the extreme, because the wheels fall off this analogy pretty quick.
Dude, really quick.
But no
plan survives engagement with the enemy.
Well, this is just on pricing. But the more bullet points you have, the more you can charge. All right, because it's a specific deliverable. The client can look at that and go, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this. Yeah, that all sounds worth it. I'm going to pay an extra grand, you know, per month, per annual. I mean, you know, you have to find what makes sense, what will fit for your clients, balance that with, you know, the cost in man hours it's going to take you to do these. But I would say don't try to create something too big, a narrative too large, too in depth, too wordy. Stick to specific deliverables. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this for you, and then just focus on that. I mean, and don't overextend yourself. Don't put things out there that are going to be too much of a challenge. And so your price may come down, but you will execute on that much more effectively. And then when it comes around, and unfortunately, you know, disasters always seem to happen and they seem to repeat. So the next cycle that comes around before then, you're going to have a great set of testimonies from those current companies who said, hey, yeah, you know, Bob came out and they were there for us. They took care of us, made sure we, you know, we're back online as soon as possible, because you're able to execute on those expectations.
The other thing that comes out of this, you got to make sure as part of your narrative, is that your customers are very clear on what the expectations are for disaster. And so when it comes to a hurricane or a blackout or a blizzard, that they will know ahead of time that they did not pay for priority access.
Yep.
If you don't set that expectation with them, they're going to just assume that they were supposed to be a priority. And they're going to call in and your lines are going to be full. Your help desk is going to be slammed. And now crap. You have let your customers down unintentional because they expected to be your number one priority, but you can't prioritize everyone in a disaster. You have to pick and choose. And it's unfortunate, but if you set that expectation with your client and say, hey, look, you know, we have priority access. We have 3 slots right now. We're hoping to have 6 by the end of the year because we're going to hire some more engineers. And you can say, would you like one of those slots? And if they say no, that's fine. But now you set that expectation so that when the disaster happens, your engineers aren't freaking out, because remember, your engineers are dealing with their families too during a disaster.
Right.
And so there's a secondary, just like a pro tip here, as somebody who's done a lot of DR planning, make sure that when you're doing these priority access schedules, that your engineer who is responsible, or your engineers who are responsible, that they have a plan for their families ahead of time, so that they're not distracted, like, oh crap, my child, I got to go find them, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, we'll take care of it. We will make sure, that we have Susan or Al go out and they're going to pick up your kids from school and take them to your house or bring them here to you so that you can focus on a client. So that is an often overlooked thing in DR planning, is families of your prime resources, because I guarantee you, as an engineer, my family comes first. You may think that high paying client comes first. You're wrong. I am out there to get my family and help them first.
Yep.
But if I know my family's taken care of, everything's good, I can focus on helping that high priority client, that maybe is helping critical infrastructure. Maybe they're just somebody who's going to be helping remove the snow, or going to be helping families, like a mission. So you can have these as priorities and your engineer is not distracted.
Yep.
So
I mean,
make sure
yeah,
that's
case in
a pro
point.
tip for you guys.
Yeah, case in point. I mean, December 31st, 1999, I knew where my family was. I knew they were safe, I knew they were taken care of. So where was I? Well, I was pulling the, the midnight deal along with half our other IT staff at the office waiting, right? We were waiting for nothing, but anyway, we didn't know that then for sure. But we were waiting, but we planned ahead for it, and we all accounted for that.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
want to
this
I
is
want
all,
to circle back, Adam. Something that you talked about earlier in the contingency planning, and you said, you guys will know what needs to be done there. And I don't know. I think back to my own experiences, and sometimes I felt like I didn't know what needed to be done there. And I mean, there were some kind of obvious things. If the email server's down, you're not going to get email, But what does that really mean for the client? How does that actually work out? And I want to talk just briefly about a contingency planning item, but do a tabletop exercise. All right, do a what if scenario. Pick something. So I had a really cool one early on in my career. I was working for an oil and gas company, and I got looped into this one, and I was a little miffed because it's like, oh great, another meeting I got to go to. I got work to do. But I walk into this giant conference room and I see not only do we have our own staff here, but we got a lot of vendors as well. And then here comes our head of security and regulate, employees, EOS. What were they? No, I forget where their acronym was. Anyway, a lot of safety related stuff. And they began to unfold this desktop exercise. We had this massive gas field up in Wyoming, drilling some very, even under today's standards, very impressive gas wells. And they had this scenario that we were doing this big build out up there. It had all these contractors running all over the place. We all knew this. We were all dealing with this. Their scenario was one of these contractors got fired. This is all fictional. They're all just telling a story. But the contractor got fired. He got escorted off the job site. We thought done. But what he does is he sneaks back onto the job site and he jumps in a grader, one of those giant pieces of equipment with a big blade on it. And he drives over a wellhead, all right, knocking that Christmas tree, that big safety device, knocking it over on the well. And that was a scenario. And then the presenter stopped pretty much. He just said, okay. And it was up to us in the room, all the staff there, to come up with our response. Oh, wow. Well, if that happens, then we're going to have to do this. And a lot of the safety guys, they had procedures that they were running through. And I had some too. And I was digging those out and saying, well, does this really work? And so your role in doing this is to make that sort of scenario. All right. But you don't have to really plan it out. Just get to the event. All right. And then stop. All right. And let your client talk about, oh, well, we would need to do this, and we'd have to notify these people, or we would need these records, or they're going to generate a lot of information. Some of it you may know, a lot of it may be a real surprise to you. Keep your poker face on and just take notes. Just document all that as happens. And when it comes back, you're going to have a very well-founded and very informed contingency plan that you can put in front of your clients. They're going to like it because it's really not a lot of work. Nobody has to prepare much for a contingency planning exercise. You just show up. I mean, nobody prepares for the unexpected disaster, right? It just happens, and we want to gauge our responses to that. You can do very much the same with the tabletop exercise. But where I'm getting at with this is when you conduct those, don't be afraid to conduct those, because your job is not to know all the answers. Your job is to listen and look for the answers. And your client will present it, or, your client's going to say, crap, I don't know what to do. All right. Now we know where to dive deep. Now we know where to put together some more plans.
Yep. And, I'm just answering Mike's question here. Is priority SLA and disaster preference the same? No, disaster priority and preference is a separate item. You can lump both together. Just know that you're going to have, just for clarity, especially with smaller clients. Just know that you just have to set that expectation with your clients. So I do know that some of you do priority SLAs. Like if you're at one site and you get a call, you have to go to this other site. Like,
Mhm.
all right, I got to drop what I'm doing and going. And you can do cool things like saying, hey, here's our preferred priority customers. If you want to be one of them, it's an extra $10 a device or whatever it is. And that means that if somebody calls us, that person goes first.
Yep.
It'd be an interesting business item. So at AWS, they used to do this. I don't know if they still do this. You could pay for CPU hours. You could bid for them. So I want to pay 10 cents a CPU hour on AWS. When the price per hour gets to 10 cents, my servers spin up. But if somebody bids 11 cents, my servers spin down and theirs spin up. And so it would be an interesting business practice to say, hey, currently our priority customer is paying $162 a device. If you pay 165, you become number one.
Yeah, there you
go. Starting a bidding war for your services. That's something Bob would do. Anyways.
That's what happens when you join the conference first, Bob. You're at the top of the list.
Just for $1 more, you can make it to the top of my list. Anyways, that's the fun around NIST contingency planning. The NIST audit itself is something that will kick off a lot of these conversations that you can charge more for. And I just wanted to go over these last 3 weeks on my favorite. So access control and configuration management. That gives you opportunities to fine tooth comb through your clients and help stabilize them. Audit and accountability, identification and authentication.
I don't know if there's
IA,
one.
deep dive on third-party access to systems, or you can implement multi-factor and boilerplate policies. And finally, this week was contingency planning and awareness training. You can do annual tabletop exercises. You can do for contingency planning where you run through mock scenarios with your clients. You can do priority lists for clients. You can charge more for that. You can charge more for your annual tabletop exercise. Those take about 2 to 4 hours, depending on how big your client is. So charge appropriately. It's a great project. It's a lot of fun. Phishing and annual renewal of acceptable use policies. That's something that's just ongoing. It's a service you turn on, you charge. A lot of you already do it. But then like you can take it to the next level with walking into environments or always like put a bunch of stickers in the office. If anybody finds somebody with a desktop unlocked, they get splatted.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of revenue to be had by having a security audit, whether you do it yourself or you do it third party. We have the NIST audit built in. It's there to help you generate revenue. Just when you identify those gaps, don't give away the milk for free. Make sure you have a plan to charge for this. If you need a plan to charge, Skip has his wonderful spreadsheets he loves breaking this stuff down on. So feel free to reach out to him. I'm sure he would be happy to walk you through, like, here's how much you should be charging for X. Anything else to add today, Skip? We got about 4 minutes left.
No, that's it. I mean, have fun with these and listen. I know early on when I started trying to do more strategic engagements with my clients, I knew they needed to be done, but I had this apprehension, this fear of not having the answers. And it took me just a little while to realize, hey, I'm not supposed to have the answers outside of the technology solutions, right? And I'm new tech. So what I need to do is listen. So I'm full of them, but one of my skipisms is when you've been stupid as long as I've been stupid, you learn to ask questions. All right. And so do that. Just ask questions to your clients, listen to the answers. You know the technology. All right. All you need to do is understand what their challenges are. And it's actually then a pretty easy job of lining the two up. So listen to your clients. They have the answers. You don't have to have the answers.
Yeah. So reach out, ask us questions. Like I was heavy into the security arena. If you have any specific questions about security and how to implement different practices, let me know. I ran security departments with employees and lots of policies and complications. I'm here for you. Skip is here for you. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you guys generate more revenue through better projects. through the security pillar. And also remember, October Security Awareness Month. This is a great time to advertise to your client new security projects and features you have available in your organization. We'll see you guys all later. Have a great week.
Yeah.